Hey, well, tonight we're angry about Glenn Greenwald, and we're not angry at Glenn Greenwald. As a matter of fact, he is one of our heroes. He's one of the few journalists actually working today who is a journalist, and what happened today is unconscionable and almost unbelievable because there are so few media outlets left that we can actually rely upon. And today, that number was reduced by one. And I'm talking about The Intercept, which Glenn Greenwald helped found 7 years ago. This is an outlet that was funded by an internet guy, and they broke news. They didn't falter. They didn't fear. They helped publish the Snowden revelations. They were a legitimate media outlet. And Glenn Greenwald, as I mentioned, is one of the few journalists working in the world today whose work we can actually look up to and respect. As a matter of fact, Glenn Greenwald has rubbed everybody the wrong way in positions of power, including in his native Brazil, where he accused a senator of corruption and risked imprisonment and possibly even death by reporting the story. But that is Glenn Greenwald. And today we found out that Glenn has been forced to leave The Intercept because he wanted to report on a story that The Intercept was not willing to report. And we don't have to go into this story in any depth. I know everybody has their own opinion. I'll just mention the word Biden, and you can imagine for yourself what it entails. It entails Joe and his son Hunter and various foreign countries around the world. But the fact is that The Intercept, previously one of the few newspapers in the world that one could rely upon to publish controversial information, The Intercept refused to allow Glenn Greenwald to publish this, even though he was one of the co-founders of this newspaper. And Glenn resigned in protest. I will link both to his article and also to The Intercept's commentary on his leaving. But I will point out this sad fact that even with Glenn Greenwald leaving The Intercept and The Intercept possibly having lost all credibility today, they thought nothing of attempting a fundraiser on the back of Glenn Greenwald's departure, as you can see by this Twitter post. It is a very, very sad day. There are so few outlets left that we can rely upon. The Intercept was one of the few because Glenn Greenwald is and was one of the brightest journalistic stars in the firmament. And the fact that he's no longer with The Intercept, I mean, I hope that he gets the exposure that he deserves. I think he moved to Substack. Matt Taibbi is also there. I believe he still writes for Rolling Stone, but all of his online writings now is at Substack. And now Glenn Greenwald is there as well. But the sad thing is even though these guys still have an outlet, they're being marginalized. These are the preeminent journalists in the world. Matt Taibbi, Glenn Greenwald, I dare you to put anybody up against them in terms of morality, their sense of justice, their willingness to expose powerful and corrupt figures. There aren't that many journalists left who will do that. Glenn has a long history of doing the right thing. I mean, if you look back, this guy used to be an attorney. He actually began as an attorney. And even as an attorney, he left a white-collar, top-notch law firm to start his own firm, where most of the work that he did was pro bono. This guy has been doing God's work from day one. And even though he is not a religious guy, and neither am I, there is good and bad in the world. And Glenn Greenwald is on the side of the angels. This guy has gotten in trouble in Brazil for reporting on corruption. He's gotten in trouble in America for reporting on spying and corruption here. He's gotten in trouble everywhere, and everybody seems unable to dissuade him from the work that he does. He does amazing work. He is a legitimate journalist. Please take a good look yourself at what you consider journalism to be. People who are repeating press releases, people who are interviewing government figures, business figures, giving them softball questions that aren't confrontational, that don't address issues of the day, that don't address scandals that are affecting them. That's not journalism. That's the same as Entertainment Tonight. It's like the interview that they give when a movie star appears to promote a new movie that they're in. That's not an interview. There are no questions asked. It's just softball. It's just a question of how are you? What do you think? We're so excited. Everything is so great. Glenn Greenwald is not that guy. Glenn Greenwald reports the facts. He has been doing so for many years. He is one of the very, very few left. And the fact that the number of outlets for guys like Glenn Greenwald especially and Matt Taibbi is shrinking. There are fewer and fewer places where they can actually get paid for their work, and soon there won't be any journalists doing work of this caliber. Is that what we want? I mean, you might be of the opinion that Russiagate was a story. You might be of the opinion that the Biden corruption story is a story. All of these stories should be covered. All of these stories should be investigated. And we need journalists like Glenn Greenwald to do it. It's a sad day when Glenn has to leave the outlet that he co-founded in order to get stories that he thinks are important published. These are important stories. Why would you, as a consumer of news, think that any story is unimportant? Especially if the powers that be don't want you to read it. Those are the stories we should be reading. Those are the stories we should be demanding. And unfortunately, the number of journalists that we can get these stories from is ever shrinking. Glenn Greenwald is one. He is a hero, and we wish him well. However, the rest of us need to wake up.